James Anderson approached the magnificent entrance of Gourmet Heights restaurant, a paragon of grandeur and sophistication in the city, his eyes sharp and his expression steadfast. He adjusted his tie with meticulous care, his heart pounding with a tumultuous mix of exhilaration and anticipation. After enduring months of tireless struggle and unyielding dedication, he had achieved a monumental civil rights victory, an accomplishment that was poised to effect profound and enduring change in the lives of countless individuals. As James reached for the door handle, he paused for a brief moment, drawing in a deep, steadying breath. His thoughts drifted back over the grueling journey that had brought him to this transformative juncture. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Raised in modest surroundings, he had long harbored a fervent dream of making a significant impact on the world. His parents had instilled in him a deep-seated sense of justice and an unshakable conviction in the necessity of fighting for what is right. Upon entering the opulent establishment, James was met by the lone black staff member, who greeted him with a polite smile laced with an undertone of restrained professionalism. "Good evening, sir. May I check if you have a reservation?" "Yes, under Anderson, party of one," James replied, his voice steady and imbued with a quiet confidence. As he was escorted to his table, he could feel the probing gazes of the other patrons scrutinizing him. Although he was accustomed to being one of the rare black faces in such exclusive settings, tonight James carried himself with an unmistakable sense of dignity and pride. His presence here was not just that of a diner, but a symbol of resilience and justice, a testament to the triumph of equality over adversity. He settled into a secluded corner table, his gaze swept over the glittering city skyline, a panorama of lights and dreams. As he unfolded the crisp napkin and laid it carefully on his lap, the significance of his recent triumph enveloped him like a soothing, warm embrace. His thoughts meandered to the countless lives poised to benefit from his victory, families who would now enjoy the promise of better housing, children who would gain access to enriched educational opportunities, and workers who would see the dawn of fairer employment practices. This triumph was not merely his, but a collective success that would send ripples through the community, challenging deeply ingrained biases and igniting a wave of transformation. A waiter approached, his demeanor polished and his smile a mask of practiced courtesy, holding a menu with a subtle flourish. "Good evening, sir. May I start by offering you a drink?" James returned the smile with warmth, his eyes reflecting his inner elation. "Yes, I'd love a glass of your finest champagne, please. Tonight I'm celebrating." As the waiter departed with a swift nod, James let his thoughts drift back to the courtroom, a place that had been a crucible of tension and fervor. He recalled the electrified atmosphere, the sea of scrutinizing faces as he delivered his impassioned final arguments. The judge's verdict had sparked a cacophony of reactions, some resounding cheers of victory, others murmured tones of dissent. Yet, amidst it all, James felt a profound certainty that justice had been rightfully served. The champagne soon arrived, its golden bubbles dancing in the crystal flute, catching the light with a celebratory sparkle. James raised the glass in a silent, reflective toast to the strides of progress he had achieved. Though he knew that this solitary victory could not erase the entrenched injustices of the past, it stood as a powerful symbol of forward momentum and the promise of a more equitable future. As James savored the effervescent champagne, letting its delicate bubbles tickle his palate, the head of the restaurant staff approached with an air of rigid authority. The man was tall and imposing, dressed in a meticulously pressed black suit that accentuated the streaks of gray in his hair. His gaze, sharp and scrutinizing, lingered on James with a barely concealed hint of disdain. "Good evening, sir," the head staff member said, his voice clipped and devoid of warmth. "Is everything to your satisfaction?" James, maintaining his composure despite the cold reception, nodded with polite assurance. "Yes, thank you. The champagne is exceptional." The head staff member's expression grew colder, his lips forming a stern, unyielding line. "Very well. If you're ready to place your order, I will be the one to take it." The man's tone, laced with barely veiled annoyance, made it clear that James's presence was an unwelcome disruption. A familiar ache began to stir in James's chest, an old, persistent sting he had felt many times before. He drew in a deep breath, reminding himself of the purpose of his visit to celebrate a hard-won victory that meant more to him than any fleeting discomfort. "I would like to start with the lobster bisque, please," he said, his voice calm and measured. The head staff member jotted down the order with a brusque, almost aggressive flourish. Once he had finished, he threw one more reluctant, judgmental glance at James. "Will there be anything else?" he asked, his voice edged with challenge rather than genuine inquiry. James shook his head with resolute dignity. "No, that will be all for now. Thank you." The man offered a curt nod before turning sharply on his heel and striding away with an air of rigid formality. As he departed, James caught a glimpse of him muttering to another staff member, "Keep an eye on that table. Make sure there are no problems." The words stung sharply, a bitter reminder of the prejudice that lurked even in the most refined of places. Yet James steeled himself against the sting, drawing strength from the more significant battles he had fought in his quest for justice. Despite his resolve, a twinge of disillusionment lingered, reminding him that, even in a venue celebrated for its elegance, the shadow of bias could still cast a long, unwelcome presence. As James awaited his soup, he observed the attentive service lavished upon the surrounding tables. Waiters moved with practiced grace, refilling water glasses, suggesting menu items with enthusiasm, and engaging in warm, friendly exchanges with the other guests. In stark contrast, his own glass remained untouched and unfilled, and no one came near to address his needs. He sat there patiently, his fingers drumming a restless rhythm on the pristine white tablecloth. His eyes followed the bustling activity of the restaurant. Waiters expertly attended to other patrons with cordial smiles and engaging conversation. Yet each time their gazes met his, their expressions turned icy, and they quickly averted their eyes. James raised his hand, hoping to catch someone's attention, but a young waiter glanced briefly in his direction before turning away and walking off. James sighed deeply, feeling the familiar sting of disappointment settles heavily on his shoulders. After what seemed an eternity, a waiter finally approached his table. The man's face was set in a rigid, unfriendly expression, and James could feel the stark difference in the quality of service he was receiving. The waiter's curt response, devoid of any semblance of politeness, felt like a slap in the face. "Yes," he barked, his impatience evident. "I'd like to place an order, please," James replied, maintaining his composure despite the rudeness. "Could I see the menu again?" The waiter let out a huff of exasperation. "Fine," he muttered, turning abruptly to retrieve the menu. When he returned, he tossed it onto the table with a barely concealed scowl before pivoting to leave. "Excuse me," James called out, his voice steady despite the growing frustration. "I'm ready to order now." The waiter turned back with narrowed eyes, his demeanor brimming with disdain. "What do you want?" he snapped, his tone laden with contempt. James took a deep breath, summoning the resolve that had carried him through countless such encounters. He refused to let this mar his evening. "I'd like the filet mignon, medium rare, please," he said with deliberate calm. The waiter jotted down the order with a brusque flourish and walked away, leaving James feeling diminished, as though he were nothing more than an afterthought. The contrast between the attentive service around him and his own experience was a stark reminder of the prejudice he still faced, even in the most refined settings. As James waited for his meal, he watched a couple at a nearby table eagerly signaling for attention. Almost immediately, two waiters swooped in, their manner warm and attentive as they offered recommendations and refilled the couple's glasses with practiced ease. The glaring disparity between the attentive service they received and his own experience was painfully clear. Minutes dragged on, and James's water glass remained stubbornly empty. He observed with growing frustration as other diners had their needs swiftly met, their glasses replenished with cheerful efficiency. Each time James tried to catch a waiter's eye, they would deliberately avert their gaze or busy themselves with inconsequential tasks elsewhere. The stark inequity was a heavy reminder of the biases he had hoped his recent victory would begin to dismantle. James had envisioned his courtroom triumph as a herald of change, a beacon signaling a shift toward greater fairness and acknowledgement. Yet here he was, grappling with the same insidious prejudices, even in a place that prided itself on refinement and elegance. As he sat isolated at his table, the faint murmur of voices from the kitchen drifted through the swinging doors, catching his attention. He couldn't help but overhear fragments of conversation, each word a painful echo of the harsh reality he continued to face. "Can you believe he's still here?" a male voice sneered. "Doesn't he know this place isn't for his kind?" "I know, right?" a female voice added, her tone dripping with disdain. "Who does he think he is, coming in here like he belongs?" James's heart sank with each derogatory remark, the words cutting deeper with every utterance. He had faced discrimination before, but hearing such blatant prejudice in this supposedly upscale establishment was particularly disheartening. Another voice joined the derisive chorus. "Maybe if we ignore him long enough, he'll get the hint and leave." Laughter erupted from the kitchen, a harsh sound that seemed to slice through James's chest like a knife. He looked down at his empty plate, his appetite extinguished by the bitter realization of his surroundings. The celebration he had envisioned for his hard-won victory now felt hollow and meaningless. With a heavy sigh, James pushed his chair back with quiet resolve. He stood, adjusting his suit jacket and lifting his head high, despite the ache in his heart. Although he longed to confront the staff and demand the respect he deserved, he knew such an encounter would only lead to further humiliation. Instead, he chose to leave quietly, his mind already racing with strategies to address this blatant injustice. He wouldn't let this experience break him. He would channel it into his next fight, using the sting of this moment as fuel for his ongoing battle against prejudice. As James made his way toward the exit, he noticed the polite black staff member at the entrance casting a surprised glance his way, evidently taken aback by his early departure. James offered a courteous nod, the silence between them thick with unspoken understanding, before stepping out into the crisp embrace of the night. On the sidewalk, he inhaled deeply, allowing the symphony of city noises to envelop him. Despite the storm of anger and sorrow raging within him, he resolutely refused to let it overwhelm his spirit. He had fought too valiantly and journeyed too far to succumb to this latest blow. Upon arriving home, the weight of the evening's distress seemed to press down on James's shoulders, a tangible burden of the night's events. He loosened his tie with a sigh of resignation and sank into his cherished armchair, the steadfast companion through countless nights of tireless case preparation. The serene quiet of his living room was a stark contrast to the chaotic clamor of the restaurant, yet the stinging barbs of cruel words still reverberated in his mind. Seated there, James was inundated by a flood of painful recollections. He was transported back to his childhood, feeling the sharp sting of exclusion from a community pool, the crushing disappointment of overlooked promotions despite his outstanding performance early in his career, and the frequent indignities of being followed in stores, scrutinized with unwarranted suspicion solely due to the color of his skin. Each recollection stoked the smoldering anger in his chest, adding fuel to the inferno of his emotions. James had clung to the hope that his achievements as a successful attorney marked a turning point, a sign of progress. However, the night's encounter shattered that illusion, revealing that prejudice still thrived, lurking in the shadows of even the most seemingly mundane encounters. He closed his eyes, drawing in deep, measured breaths to steady himself. Determined to channel his frustration constructively, James reached for his phone, meticulously composing a letter that would lay bare his experience at the restaurant, ensuring detailed names and specific incidents. He knew that a meticulously crafted complaint could ignite change, especially when voiced by someone of his standing and influence. By dawn, James had honed his letter into a document that was both impassioned and precise. He demanded a comprehensive investigation into the restaurant's practices and called for mandatory staff training on diversity and inclusion. The letter was dispatched to the restaurant's management, local newspapers, and influential bloggers who had previously championed his causes. He also took to social media, leveraging his platform to amplify his message and raise awareness. The response was swift and profound. The media seized upon the story, and soon, Gourmet Heights restaurant was engulfed in an unprecedented wave of public scrutiny. The restaurant's management issued a formal apology, and the staff member responsible for the incident was suspended pending further investigation. Additionally, the restaurant committed to instituting new diversity training programs and fostering a more inclusive environment for all patrons, signifying a step towards meaningful change. James's resolute actions ignited a broader dialogue on discrimination and the critical importance of advocating for oneself. His ordeal at Gourmet Heights resonated far beyond his own experience, encouraging others to come forward with their stories and demand more equitable treatment in establishments where prejudice persisted. What had begun as a deeply personal affront had evolved into a powerful catalyst for systemic change, proving that even in the face of blatant discrimination, an individual's bravery and determination could effect substantial transformation. As James observed the unfolding public discourse, a profound sense of vindication and pride enveloped him. He recognized that the journey toward justice was often protracted and fraught with challenges, yet he remained resolute in his fight. Each small victory, each step forward, bolstered his resolve to continue striving for a more just and equitable world for all. The courtroom, however, was where James's battle truly unfolded. This case was not merely about his singular experience, but rather illuminated a pervasive systemic issue affecting countless individuals daily. As the trial progressed, James summoned a series of witnesses, each of whom vividly depicted the restaurant's entrenched discriminatory practices. A young woman, her voice quivering with emotion, recounted being relegated to a table near the kitchen, despite the availability of prime seats by the window. An elderly gentleman shared his painful experience of being consistently overlooked by the staff, while other patrons received prompt and courteous service. The atmosphere in the courtroom grew thick with the gravity of these testimonies. The air seemed to pulsate with the collective weight of shared suffering and injustice. James observed that the jurors' initial skepticism gave way to visible shock and ultimately to deep understanding. Expert witnesses provided compelling statistical evidence, revealing a clear and troubling pattern of discrimination at the restaurant. They elaborated on how such practices not only breached legal standards but also perpetuated harmful societal norms. Throughout the trial, James remained composed, his serene demeanor starkly contrasting with the mounting discomfort of the restaurant's owner. The defense's futile attempts to undermine the witnesses' credibility were swiftly dismantled by the overwhelming and incontrovertible evidence presented. As the trial progressed, it became increasingly apparent that James's case was wielding a profound impact. Reporters were furiously jotting down notes, their pens a blur of activity, while the public gallery buzzed with hushed whispers, visibly moved by the emotional testimonies. The courtroom had transformed into an arena of intense emotions and heated debates, with James resolutely standing at its epicenter. The defense attorney, a sharp-witted woman clad in a meticulously tailored suit, threw her full weight into undermining the witnesses. She scrutinized their recollections, insinuating that perhaps their perceptions of discrimination were mere misinterpretations of innocent actions. And despite the relentless assault, James remained a pillar of calm, his demeanor a testament to his unwavering resolve. "Isn't it possible that you were simply having a bad day and misread the situation, Mr. Anderson?" the defense attorney inquired, her voice laced with derision. James inhaled deeply, centering himself before responding. "No, ma'am," he answered with steadfast conviction. "What I experienced that day was undeniable discrimination. It wasn't the first time I had encountered such prejudice, but I vowed it would be the last time I remained silent about it." His words reverberated throughout the courtroom, eliciting nods of solidarity from many in the audience. Even some jurors seemed visibly touched by his earnestness. Outside the courthouse, a fervent group of supporters rallied daily, brandishing signs emblazoned with slogans like "Justice for James" and "End Discrimination." Now their unwavering presence was a beacon of encouragement for James, reinforcing the significance of his battle. However, the path was not without its obstacles. James grappled with anonymous threats and scathing criticism from those who accused him of exaggerating or seeking publicity. These challenges tested his fortitude, but he drew resilience from his parents' teachings and the unwavering support of his community. Amidst the tumult, James remained laser-focused on the overarching mission. This case was not merely about his personal experience or the restaurant's misconduct. It was a battle against a systemic issue that had perpetuated discrimination for far too long. Each passing day of the trial brought a heavier weight of responsibility, as James recognized that the outcome could potentially set a precedent for future discrimination cases. Rather than feeling daunted, he felt invigorated by the opportunity to effect tangible change. This was his moment to advocate not only for himself, but for all those who had suffered from similar injustices, transforming his struggle into a powerful force for societal reform. As the trial proceeded, the media frenzy surrounding James's case escalated dramatically. News vans formed a sprawling line outside the courthouse, their bright logos and flashing lights a stark contrast to the somber gravity of the proceedings. Reporters, eager and competitive, jostled for the best vantage points, their cameras and microphones thrust forward as James arrived each morning. The case had captivated the nation, thrusting the issue of racial discrimination in upscale venues into the limelight of public discourse. James's composed and eloquent presence during press conferences and interviews endeared him to many. His articulate and impassioned accounts of his experiences maintained a poise that won the respect of both supporters and skeptics alike. "This case isn't merely about my grievance," James declared one afternoon to a throng of reporters. "It represents every individual who has been demeaned and dehumanized because of their skin color. We deserve more, and we are fighting for that better future." His words struck a chord nationwide, igniting fervent discussions about racial equality and the pervasive nature of discrimination in everyday life. Social media platforms were abuzz with activity, with hashtags like "Justice for James" and "End Discrimination" trending for days. Television talk shows featured experts who delved into the case and its broader societal implications. Inspired by James's courage, many individuals shared their own experiences of discrimination, amplifying the conversation. While the dialogue was often uncomfortable, it was undeniably essential. As public interest surged, so did the scrutiny on the restaurant. Its once pristine reputation was marred by the scandal, with numerous former patrons expressing disbelief and disillusionment over the allegations. Some organized boycotts, pledging not to return until the establishment took definitive steps to address its discriminatory practices. Throughout this tumult, James remained steadfast in his focus on the trial. He was acutely aware of the media's influence, but was determined not to let it divert him from his pursuit of justice. Each day, he entered the courtroom with unwavering resolve, prepared to continue his battle. During a trial recess, James sought solace away from the chaotic courthouse. He retreated to a nearby park, finding refuge on a weathered wooden bench that had been his sanctuary during previous challenging cases. The tranquility of the park brought a much-needed sense of calm. As he sat there, his thoughts turned to his parents. Closing his eyes, he could almost hear his father's deep, reassuring voice. "Son." His father would say, "No matter what life throws at you, hold your head high. Your dignity is something no one can take from you." A gentle breeze stirred the leaves overhead, evoking memories of countless evenings spent on the porch with his mother. Her voice seemed to echo in his mind. "Perseverance is the key, James. The path may be long and arduous, but if you keep moving forward, you will reach your destination." These lessons had been the foundation of James's life, guiding him through numerous trials. Now, as he faced one of the most significant battles of his career, their wisdom felt more pertinent and empowering than ever. James opened his eyes and surveyed the park, his gaze softening as he took in the everyday scenes around him. Children giggled as they swung back and forth, their laughter mingling with the rustling of the leaves. Nearby, an elderly couple strolled hand in hand, their shared smiles a testament to a lifetime of companionship. These simple, joyful moments of everyday life underscored the significance of his battle. James was fighting for a world where everyone could experience these moments without the shadow of fear or prejudice hanging over them. As he sat on the weathered bench, his phone buzzed with an influx of supportive messages from friends, colleagues, and even strangers touched by his story. Each notification was a reminder of the solidarity he had in this fight, reinforcing that he was not alone. The swelling support from his community was a powerful affirmation that his struggle resonated far beyond his own experience. Fueled by these reflections, James rose from the bench, his resolve fortified. He was ready to return to the courtroom, invigorated by a renewed sense of purpose. His parents' lessons, along with the unwavering support from his community, had reignited his determination. Yet, as the trial resumed and the defense attorney presented their counter-arguments, James felt a fleeting moment of doubt. The attorney's arguments were smooth and compelling, portraying the incidents as misunderstandings rather than deliberate acts of discrimination. For a brief second, James questioned if he had overreacted, if the strength of his case was not as robust as he had hoped. Taking a deep breath, James closed his eyes for a moment to center himself. The courtroom's clamor faded away, and in his mind he envisioned the faces of those who had shared their painful experiences with him. He recalled Melly, a young black woman who had been rudely denied service at the restaurant's bar. The anguish in her eyes as she spoke of being ignored while white patrons were served before her was etched into his memory. He thought of Clark, an elderly man who had been unceremoniously seated near the kitchen, despite the restaurant being nearly empty. Clark's trembling voice as he described feeling marginalized in a place that should have embraced him remained vivid. James also remembered Lisa, a successful businesswoman who had been forced to prepay for her meal while her white colleagues were allowed to settle their bills later. The hurt and humiliation in her voice as she recounted her experience resonated deeply with him. These stories, along with countless others, surged back to James, each one a stark reminder of the widespread and entrenched discrimination that persisted. Each testimony reinforced why this fight was of paramount importance, driving home the urgency and necessity of his quest for justice. Opening his eyes, James felt a profound sense of resolve solidify within him. He glanced at the jury, their expressions a complex tapestry of emotions. Some appeared to be swayed by the defense's persuasive arguments, while others seemed doubtful and contemplative. James understood that his upcoming rebuttal would be pivotal. As he stood to address the court, a calm determination enveloped him. The fleeting doubts that had momentarily clouded his thoughts dissipated, replaced by a resolute clarity. He was not merely fighting for himself, he was standing up for Melly, Clark, Lisa, and countless others who had endured similar injustices. Just as James was about to begin his rebuttal, a commotion erupted at the back of the courtroom, drawing everyone's attention. The judge called for order, and a woman in her mid-30s, dressed in a modest yet elegant suit, made her way to the front. "Your Honor," James's co-counsel announced. Rising swiftly, "We have a last-minute witness who has come forward with crucial testimony." She was formerly employed at the restaurant in question. The judge, intrigued, raised an eyebrow and, after a brief sidebar with both legal teams, granted permission for the witness to take the stand. "Please state your name for the court," James requested, his heart racing with a surge of unexpected hope. "Melissa Johnson," the woman responded, her voice calm yet tinged with a hint of nervousness. "Miss Johnson, could you describe your role at the defendant's restaurant?" Melissa inhaled deeply before answering. "I was employed there as a server for 3 years, until about 6 months ago." As Melissa began her testimony, the courtroom fell into an expectant hush. She detailed a series of discriminatory practices she had observed and, on occasion, had been compelled to enforce. Her account reinforced many of the claims made by earlier witnesses, adding new dimensions to the narrative of how the restaurant's policies subtly yet systematically marginalized certain patrons. Melissa's detailed recounting of specific incidents, such as overhearing management instructing staff to seat people of color in less desirable sections, added substantial weight to the case. Despite the defense's attempts to discredit her, questioning her motives, and suggesting she was simply a disgruntled former employee, Melissa remained poised and unwavering. Her clear, consistent testimony elicited murmurs of approval and surprise throughout the courtroom. James felt a wave of optimism wash over him. Melissa's testimony provided the crucial final piece, fortifying the case against systemic discrimination. With the defense's closing arguments looming, they clung to their assertion that the allegations were exaggerated and that the restaurant's practices fell within legal boundaries. However, their arguments seemed increasingly tenuous in light of the comprehensive evidence presented by James and his team. As James prepared for his closing statement, he took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts with precision. This was his final opportunity to connect with the jury on a deeply personal level, to humanize the case, and to underscore the gravity of their decision. Standing before the jury, James spoke with deep, heartfelt sincerity. This case extends beyond the actions of one restaurant. It embodies a widespread issue that impacts countless individuals daily. The evidence presented has illuminated a clear and undeniable pattern of discrimination that cannot be dismissed. Yet, beyond the cold facts and figures, this case delves into the profound human cost of such behavior, the painful experience of feeling inferior, unworthy of respect, and stripped of one's dignity. He scanned the faces of the jurors, making deliberate eye contact with each of them. "I urge you to look beyond the legalities and to reflect on the moral dimensions of this case. Choosing to stand against discrimination means standing up for every person who has ever been marginalized or devalued. Your verdict has the potential to set a powerful precedent for addressing and combating such injustices in the future. It can send a resounding message that discrimination will not be tolerated in our society." As James concluded his impassioned argument, his supporters in the gallery erupted into a standing ovation. The jury was then dismissed to deliberate, leaving the courtroom enveloped in a heavy, anxious silence. James's team huddled together, their faces etched with a mixture of hope and weariness. They had poured their hearts and souls into the case, yet the outcome remained uncertain. During the deliberation period, James reflected on the arduous journey that had led him to this pivotal moment. He recalled the grueling hours, the emotionally charged testimonies, and the unwavering support from his community. The trial had transcended a mere legal battle. It had become a symbol of the broader struggle against racial discrimination. The weight of this responsibility was immense, but so was the hope for a transformative outcome. At last, the jury returned to the courtroom, their expressions grave. The foreperson stood, and with a steady voice, read the verdict: "We find the defendant guilty of discriminatory practices as outlined in the case." A wave of relief, and triumph surged through James and his supporters, followed by a thunderous applause that echoed through the courtroom. James's eyes brimmed with tears of gratitude and exhaustion as he absorbed the gravity of the moment. The victory was not just for him, but for everyone who had faced the sting of discrimination and had dared to speak out against it. The verdict marked a watershed moment, not only for James but for countless others who had endured similar discrimination. It signaled a pivotal shift in the fight against systemic bias, setting a precedent that would influence future cases. The court mandated sweeping changes at the restaurant, requiring it to overhaul its policies and provide compensation to those affected. In the aftermath, James was inundated with messages of support and gratitude from across the nation. Many reached out to share their personal stories of discrimination, inspired by his bravery and resilience. The case ignited a broader dialogue about racial equality and the pervasive nature of discrimination, catalyzing increased public awareness and advocacy. James leveraged his newfound platform to further these conversations, speaking at conferences and engaging in community events. His commitment to justice remained unwavering, driven by a profound belief in the possibility of change and the power of every individual's voice. Reflecting on the trial, James felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The journey had been arduous and fraught with challenges, but it had also been transformative. It reaffirmed his conviction in the power of perseverance and the necessity of standing up for what is right. Although the battle against discrimination was ongoing, the impact of his case was unmistakable. The road ahead remained long, but James was resolute and ready to continue the fight, knowing that each step forward carried the promise of a fairer, more equitable world. The following morning, Marcus called a press conference, a palpable sense of anticipation filling the air as cameras flashed and reporters leaned in. With a mixture of trepidation and resolve, Marcus approached the microphone. His voice, initially shaky, steadied as he began. "Today, I stand before you to extend my deepest apologies to Mr. James Anderson and to everyone who has felt unwelcome or discriminated against in my restaurant." Marcus took a moment to compose himself, the weight of his words evident. "I was wrong. The actions and culture that persisted in my establishment were unacceptable. Today, I pledge to transform my restaurant into a beacon of inclusivity and respect." The room was silent as Marcus detailed his reform plans. He announced a comprehensive diversity and sensitivity training program for all employees, the establishment of a scholarship fund for aspiring chefs from marginalized communities, and a partnership with local civil rights organizations to ensure ongoing oversight and accountability. As Marcus spoke, his resolve grew stronger, driven by a newfound commitment to be part of the solution rather than perpetuate the problem. "This is just the beginning," he declared. "I invite Mr. Anderson and community leaders to collaborate with us as we work to become a true model of inclusivity." James watched the press conference unfold with a complex swirl of emotions. The sincerity in Marcus Blackwell's voice as he issued his apology was unexpected, a moment of genuine reflection from the man who had once seemed so distant. As Marcus outlined his ambitious reform plans, James felt a stirring of hope and a newfound sense of purpose. It was clear that the path forward would require more than just words. It would need action and commitment. The very next day, James reached out to Marcus's office, his voice filled with warmth and sincerity when they connected. "Mr. Blackwell, I was deeply moved by your apology and the plans you've set forth. I believe in second chances and want to offer my support in helping you implement these changes." Marcus was visibly taken aback by James's offer. His voice wavered with emotion as he responded, "Mr. Anderson, your generosity is beyond anything I could have hoped for. I'm deeply grateful and would be honored to work with you." In the weeks that followed, James and Marcus met frequently at the restaurant. Together, they explored every corner of the establishment, from the dining room to the kitchen, to the staff areas, discussing practical ways to foster a more inclusive and welcoming environment. James shared his experiences and insights, helping Marcus view the restaurant through a lens of empathy and understanding. They worked collaboratively to develop a comprehensive training program for the staff, inviting experts from civil rights organizations to conduct workshops on unconscious bias and cultural sensitivity. The initial response from the employees was one of cautious curiosity. However, as the workshops progressed, the staff began to embrace the opportunity for growth and learning. Marcus, inspired by James's unwavering dedication, went above and beyond his initial commitments. He expanded the team to include a diverse range of talented chefs and staff members, offering opportunities to individuals who had previously been overlooked. The menu was reimagined to celebrate the city's rich cultural diversity, incorporating dishes from various traditions and backgrounds. Gradually, the restaurant began to undergo a profound transformation. The previously cold and unwelcoming atmosphere gave way to one of warmth and inclusivity. Customers from all walks of life began to feel genuinely valued and respected. The restaurant's reputation started to shift, with positive word of mouth spreading about the changes and the newfound spirit of the establishment. One evening, as James and Marcus sat together at a corner table, reviewing their progress and discussing the future, Marcus's eyes were filled with tears of gratitude. "I can't express enough how thankful I am for your willingness to help me make amends," he said softly. "You've shown me what true leadership and forgiveness truly mean." James smiled, his own eyes glistening with emotion. "This is what happens when we come together, Marcus. We all have the power to create meaningful change, no matter where we start. The journey may be long, but every step forward is a victory." As the weeks turned into months, the transformation at Marcus's restaurant became increasingly evident. The once exclusive establishment had evolved into a vibrant hub of inclusivity and community spirit. James and Marcus's dedication to fostering genuine change was reflected in every aspect of the restaurant's new culture. The comprehensive diversity training programs implemented were far from superficial. The workshops went beyond theoretical discussions, incorporating interactive elements like role-playing exercises and open forums. These sessions allowed staff members to confront their own biases, share personal stories, and engage in meaningful dialogue about cultural sensitivity. Over time, what started as hesitant participation grew into enthusiastic engagement, as employees recognized the value of these conversations in enhancing their interactions with guests. Marcus's commitment to change extended beyond the restaurant's walls. He spearheaded community outreach initiatives that showcased the restaurant's dedication to inclusivity. The monthly community dinner events became a celebrated fixture, bringing together local organizations from various cultural backgrounds. These events not only highlighted diverse cuisines and traditions, but also fostered a sense of unity and understanding among attendees. The dinners provided a platform for cultural exchange and built bridges between different segments of the community. The staff's transformation was evident in their interactions with patrons. They took pride in learning about different cultures, often engaging guests with interesting facts and demonstrating genuine curiosity. The once cold reception was replaced with warm, respectful service. The head staff, who had previously been skeptical, now greeted each guest with authentic hospitality. Their efforts even extended to learning phrases in multiple languages, ensuring that international visitors felt welcomed and appreciated. In the kitchen, head chef Miguel played a pivotal role in embracing the restaurant's new direction. He collaborated with local immigrant-owned businesses to source authentic ingredients and guest chefs from diverse backgrounds to contribute to special fusion dishes. The restaurant's menu evolved into a rich tapestry of global flavors, celebrating the diverse culinary traditions present in their city. The ripple effect of these changes reached far beyond the restaurant. Local businesses began to take notice and sought James and Marcus's guidance on implementing their diversity initiatives. The restaurant became a model for how a business could undergo a meaningful transformation and positively impact society. The success of the restaurant's journey inspired others to pursue similar changes, amplifying the movement for inclusivity and respect across the community. James and Marcus continued to collaborate, their shared vision for a more inclusive world driving their ongoing efforts. They remained committed to using their platform to advocate for social change and to support initiatives that promoted understanding and acceptance. The restaurant's evolution was not just a testament to their hard work, but also a beacon of hope for a future where diversity was celebrated and discrimination was actively challenged. As James stood at the podium, he felt a surge of emotion. He cleared his throat and began to speak, his voice steady and heartfelt. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he started, looking out over the crowd. "When I think back to the beginning of this journey, I remember the pain and frustration I felt. It was a time when I questioned whether things could change. But tonight, standing here in this transformed space, I see that change is not only possible but also powerful." He paused, taking in the sea of faces, each one a testament to the community's collective effort. This restaurant's journey is a symbol of what happens when we come together with a shared vision of inclusivity and respect. It's about more than just improving a business. It's about creating a space where everyone feels valued and heard. This transformation reflects the heart and soul of the community that supports it. James turned to Marcus, who stood nearby, and continued, "Marcus, your commitment to making amends and leading with integrity has been truly inspiring. You've shown that acknowledging past mistakes and working towards genuine change can create something beautiful. The efforts of everyone here, from the staff to the patrons, have turned this restaurant into a beacon of hope and unity." He looked back at the crowd, his voice growing more passionate. "I want to thank each of you for your courage to confront bias and your dedication to fostering understanding. The road to inclusivity is ongoing, but every step we take together brings us closer to a future where everyone can thrive without fear of discrimination." James took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle. Tonight is not just a celebration of a restaurant's reopening, it's a celebration of the power of community and the strength of our shared values. Let this be a reminder that change begins with each of us, and when we commit to acting with empathy and respect, we can transform not just individual spaces but the world around us. The room erupted in applause, the sound echoing with hope and celebration. As James looked out over the crowd, he saw the impact of their collective efforts reflected in the smiles and shared conversations. The evening was a testament to the power of perseverance, understanding, and the transformative strength of community. The restaurant's reopening marked not just a new chapter for Marcus's business, but also a broader movement towards a more inclusive and respectful world. As the evening progressed, the restaurant continued to hum with life and warmth. James and Marcus, standing side by side, looked around the bustling room with a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. The changes they had worked so hard to implement were now a reality, and the atmosphere in the restaurant was a testament to their efforts. The guests enjoyed a diverse array of dishes, each plate a reflection of the restaurant's new commitment to celebrating cultures from around the world. Conversations flowed freely, and the space, once marked by exclusivity, now buzzed with a sense of community and inclusiveness. The staff's pride in their work was evident in every interaction, from Saul's welcoming demeanor at the door to Chef Maria's expertly crafted meals. As the night wore on, James took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led to this transformation. He thought about the challenges, the doubts, and the hard work that had gone into making this vision a reality. He was reminded of the importance of standing up for what was right and the power of collaboration in driving meaningful change. Marcus joined him at a quiet corner of the restaurant where they could look out over the vibrant scene. James, Marcus said, "I can't express how much tonight means to me. This restaurant has become something I'm genuinely proud of, and it's all thanks to your guidance and determination." James nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "This is just the beginning, Marcus. There's so much more work to be done, but tonight we celebrate the progress we've made. We've shown that change is possible when we come together and commit to making a difference. As the final guests enjoyed their meals and the evening drew to a close, James and Marcus reflected on the impact of their efforts. The restaurant had become more than just a place to eat. It had become a symbol of what could be achieved when people worked towards a common goal with compassion and integrity. The night ended with a final round of heartfelt farewells and promises of continued efforts towards inclusivity and respect. James and Marcus shared a quiet moment of reflection, knowing that their journey was far from over, but feeling hopeful and energized by the progress they had made. The restaurant's reopening had not only marked a new chapter for Marcus's business, but had also served as a powerful reminder of the potential for positive change in every community. James, looking around at the transformed space, felt a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to the ongoing fight for justice and equality. As he left the restaurant that night, James carried with him the hope that the spirit of inclusivity and respect they had fostered would continue to grow and inspire others. The evening had been a testament to the strength of unity and the transformative power of standing up for what is right, and James was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with the same determination and hope. As we come to the end of this remarkable journey, I want to thank you all for joining us in exploring the powerful story of James and Marcus. We've witnessed a profound transformation, not just within a restaurant, but in the hearts and minds of everyone involved. This journey has highlighted the incredible impact that commitment, collaboration, and compassion can have in overcoming adversity and fostering a more inclusive world. So, what have you learned from this story? How do you see the lessons from James and Marcus's journey applying to your own life? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Tell us one thing you've learned that you plan to bring into practice in your daily life. If you enjoyed this video and found it inspiring, please leave a comment and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support helps us continue to bring you stories of change, hope, and progress. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.